few years ago, there was a 12-year-old boy in China who was out swimming in the middle of a river. But all of a sudden, he started to flail his arms around and yelled for help as he gasped for breath. Well, on the shore, there were 10 people. And even though they saw that the boy was struggling, and even though they heard his cries for help, none of them did anything to try and save that boy. Instead, they dickered back and forth with the boy's father until he finally offered a high enough reward for one of them to go and save the child. But by the time they finally reached a deal, the boy had gone under and died. So here's the question. Were those 10 people there on the shore guilty of playing a role in that boy's death? In a government court of law, in all likelihood, they would not be found guilty. After all, they didn't shoot the boy, they didn't stab him, they didn't hold his head under the water. But from God's viewpoint, were those 10 people guilty of playing a role in that boy's death? From God's perspective, were those 10 people guilty of violating the 6th commandment? In the original Hebrew version of the 6th commandment, there are just 2 words. The first is the Hebrew word that means no or do not. And the second word is the Hebrew word ritzah. But the question is, what exactly does that word ritzah mean? Because even as our Pew Bibles indicate, there is some debate. The New Revised Standard Version of the Bible translates the verse as, "You shall not murder." But the footnote on that verse sends you to the bottom of the page where it explains that that verse can also be translated, "You shall not kill." Now, "you shall not murder" and "you shall not kill" are somewhat similar, but they are hardly identical in meaning. What you find is that as you see how that word ritzah is used throughout the Old Testament, it has a variety of meanings. For instance, sometimes that word does mean murder. In 1 Kings chapter 21, King Ahab kills a man named Naboth so he can take his vineyard from him. But then when the prophet Elijah comes along and confronts the king about that, he accuses the king of committing ritzah, which undoubtedly there means murder. But in the book of Deuteronomy, there are a number of laws set down regarding what are called cities of refuge. The idea was that if you accidentally or unintentionally killed someone, you could flee to a city of refuge and receive protection there, so that the dead man's family could not take revenge against you. But the thing is that in those passages, the word that is used to describe accidental or unintentional killing is that same word, ritzah. Or in the book of Numbers, it speaks about a convicted killer being put to death by execution. And the word there for execution is that same word, ritzah, again. So we find that that one word has a wide range of meanings, ranging from murder to accidental or unintentional killing to execution. so when the sixth commandment says, no ritzah, not only does it mean you shall not murder, but it also most definitely has the broader meaning of you shall not kill. That all killing is an abomination to God. It's like some years ago, an anthropologist traveled to the southeastern Asian island nation of Malaysia to study a tribe there called the Batek people. And among other things, the anthropologist asked the natives, why didn't your ancestors defend themselves more vigorously when they were invaded by slave traders? Why, the anthropologist asked, did they not use their blowpipes and shoot poison darts at the invaders? But when the anthropologist asked that question, the members of the tribe got shocked and horrified looks on their faces, and they said, because that would have killed them. In other words, as far as the members of that tribe were concerned, the very thought of killing other people, even people who were intent on doing them harm, was so abhorrent that they refused to even consider doing that. And that's precisely the attitude that the sixth commandment wants us to have. An attitude where not only is murder, but where all kinds of killing for any reason just are not a part of God's creation. After all, we need to remember what Jesus said about this commandment in his Sermon on the Mount. Jesus said, you have heard that it was said to people in ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable for judgment. But I say to you, if you are angry with a brother or sister, you are liable to judgment. Or in a similar way, in 1 John, it says, all who hate a brother or sister are murderers. Simply put, Jesus is not content with us just not killing or murdering each other. No, according to the New Testament, it is utterly wrong in God's eyes for us to be angry with or to hate any person. And to do that, to be angry with or to hate another person, as far as the New Testament is concerned, that constitutes a violation of the sixth commandment. The essence of the sixth commandment can be traced back to what God said to Noah at the end of the great flood. God said, whoever sheds the blood of a human, by a human shall that person's blood be shed. For in his own image, God created humankind. The idea is that killing is so very wrong because all human life belongs to God. God created each person in God's own image, and therefore no one has the right to take another person's life because every human